Today, we'll take a look at this stunning homage from Fillida. It features the latest updates and a high-beat PT5000 movement. No praises for design, for obvious reasons, but the execution looks pretty good. How good? Well, in this video, we'll find out. Hello and welcome to the channel. If you're already subscribed, great, thank you and very warm welcome back. And if you're new here or you've been watching this channel without subscribing, which is of course absolutely fine, do consider joining us by hitting that big red subscribe button. This watch is of course a homage to Omega from latest James Bond movie No Time to Die, which at the point of filming this video is yet to be officially released on the big screen. To Fillida's credit though, there are some deviations from the watch in the movie, like a date at 3 o'clock for example, but in general it is quite clear where they've got their inspirations from. I will talk more about differences as we examine this watch in more details in this video. Fillida offers this watch on a number of options which vary in price and start from about $119 up to about $173, and they offer options with a bracelet or a native strap, also with a sterile dial or with Fillida logo on it, and two movement options, one with Miyota and one with the Swiss clone high-beat PT5000, so I will be putting this watch on a time grapher in this video as well. The watch I've got here also features sterile dial. I know that sterile dials are not exactly everyone's cup of tea, so luckily, as I just mentioned, Fillida offers dial with a logo as well. Now, Fillida also did a number of upgrades to this watch, so in this video we'll see if those upgrades and updates made this good watch even better. Now, as I usually do in this type of reviews, and this is of course just in case if you haven't seen any of them before, I will go over dimensions and specifications of this watch, highlight things that I like and things that I think could be improved, and of course we will draw some conclusion at the end. The packaging is very good, especially from the transportation point of view. I must say this watch arrived very well protected. Inside of this bubble case we get a cardboard box which contains the watch with a tag, and well, that's about it. No paperwork of any kind or any other additional artifacts. You know exactly where your money went into this timepiece. Dimensions. Measuring by the bezel, we have a 41mm diameter, 20mm lugs, just under 14.5mm case height, or 14.4 to be precise. A bit on the chunky side, I must say, and a lug tip to lug tip is about 47mm. However, measuring those protruding end links on the bracelet, we get just over 53mm, which is a bit on the large side, so more about it later. The watch weighs about 181 grams, nice and hefty. It is not a small watch, and as we can see, there is no taper in that chunky bracelet, which we will also examine in details shortly. The full-length bracelet should cover about 8.5-inch wrist or about 21.5 centimeters. Because this watch belongs to a friend of mine, so I will not be adjusting the bracelet. However, I will put this watch on other straps to showcase how it sits on the wrist later in this video. Dial. Dial is matte black, but not a dull black, but rather a bit darker shade, which I think is nice. We have applied our indices, everything aligns quite well. This watch features a sterile dial, however, Fillida only dropped the logo and still kept the writing at the bottom of the dial, which personally I think is a good approach. And the red accents in the bottom line of the writing work well with the red end of the second hand. Fillida also included a so-called crowfoot sign, going very much James Bond Omega watch here. Apparently in the UK this sign has some kind of military connotation and also indicates a governmental property, which if you are into James Bond movies you probably already know. We have a date window. I like how Fillida still included the part of the applied hour index next to the date, gives it a sense of completeness. The date disc is black, which I think is very good, and it is apparently one of the upgrades included in this watch. Initially, Fillida used white background dates. The date font is not the brightest white though, and this would be a negative if this wasn't a homage to a watch from a spy movie. What I mean is that the whole subdued color of the hour indices and font on the date, and even this particular watch, the sterile dial, gives this watch that stealthy, kind of a badass look that someone like James Bond probably would go for. And again, good execution from Fillida here, however, I don't think they can take the credit for the stealthy approach. Apparently, Omega designed the Seamaster for the movie based on consultation with movie studios, and that's why the watch has such a low-key, stealthy look in the first place. Looking at the hands, again, very familiar skeletonized sword hands and a long and elegant second hand that stretches all the way to the end of the dial to the minute chaptering. And because we have a high-beat PT5000 movement here, we also can enjoy that nice and smooth sweep of the second hand. Of course, we need to talk about the lume. Well, and this is the area where I think this watch could have actually been improved. The lume is okayish, however, it doesn't last very long, and probably the best way I could describe it is being somewhere between Pagani design and San Martin. Crystal. Based on the Fillida specification, we have a double dome sapphire crystal with upgraded anti-reflective coating. I can definitely confirm that this is a sapphire crystal, and I also have to say that this is one of the better anti-reflective coating I've seen on AliExpress watches. The legibility of the dial is very good at almost any viewing angle. In regards to the curvature of the crystal though, it is definitely domed. However, the ever-slight magnification distortion that we get at the very sharp viewing angle is closer to a single-domed, or rather to a double-domed, but with a various curvature at the top and the bottom of the glass, so slightly different to your usual double-dome crystal. Whichever it is though, the dial legibility, as I already mentioned, is very good. Bezel. We have 120 clicks unidirectional ceramic insert bezel here. First, I think the color of the bezel and the chaptering on the bezel works very well with the colors on the dial background and indices. Second, Fillida replaced the shiny bezel with this matte black one, another upgrade that Fillida introduced since the first release of this watch, and I think this works much better for this style of the watch. Third, the bezel action is very good. 120 clicks, the resistance is good, it is easy to grip, pretty much no backplay whatsoever. It would be excellent if it wasn't for a very strange kind of sound. Not a deal breaker by any means, but still, if I am to compare it to one of the best bezels in this price segment from San Martin, yep, this one. This Fillida bezel does not sound as crisp. Still, the actual bezel action is very good. And to top it all up, bezel aligns very well. Now, the only little misalignment I spotted, and if we can call it that, is around the lume peep within the triangle. I think it is ever so slightly shifted to the left. Or maybe not. Also, another thing to keep in mind, this bezel is not lumed. Maybe Fillida can introduce the lume on the bezel in the next upgrade. It would probably look very good, but my guess that it would push the price up. Would you pay more for a lumed bezel, or should Fillida rather improve the current lume on the dial and leave the bezel as is? Please let us know in the comments. Moving on to the case, the finishing is really good. The curves and the lock twists are executed very well. We have a fully functional, according to Fillida, helium escape valve that is operated by a screw-down crown at 10 o'clock position. The crown is unsigned, by the way, and we have a screw-down crown which is also unsigned at usual 3 o'clock position. Moving over to the back of the case, we get a plain back case with circular brushing finish. I think overall the case is executed very well. The only area that I would improve would be the thickness of the case. looks like the case back protrudes quite noticeably, adding probably at least 1 mm, if not more, to the height of the case. As far as I know, Miyota movement and especially PT5000 movement, which is in essence a Swiss ETA clone movement, those movements are quite slim, so probably the case could have been a bit slimmer as well. On a positive note though, Fillida declares 200 meters of water resistance on this watch, which is yet another upgrade since the initial release, which means this is not just a very good looking watch, but also a fully functional tool watch, definitely suitable for swimming and probably some recreational diving. Movement. As I mentioned at the start, this watch houses Caliber PT5000 movement. It is a clone of a very popular ETA 2824 Swiss movement. Since ETA patent expired some years ago, some Swiss manufacturers, the most known Sellita, and a few Chinese manufacturers went on producing the clones of this reliable, robust and quite accurate Swiss movement. This movement hacks and winds and has a quick set date function, and of course it beats at 28,800 beats per hour, resulting in that smooth sweep of the second hand. Let's pop this baby on a time grapher. Well, PT5000 movement generally has a good reputation and is even used by some German watch manufacturers. As we can see, all the parameters are well within tolerances. Looks pretty good, including the accuracy, which is within the tolerances for PT5000 movement of plus minus 12 seconds a day. Bracelet. Okay, we have here quite well-engineered stainless steel bracelet with screws, not pins. Again, no credit for design here goes to Fillida, however, the execution is very decent. Solid end links and solid links, no taper, so the bracelet is 20 mm wide at the clasp, the same as at the case. And we have a well-engineered clasp too. It is milled stainless steel clasp with a very robust double pusher mechanism, and we even get a fully functional diver's extension. We don't get any micro adjustments on the clasp, however, as an alternative we get a couple of half or probably rather quarter links that can be used for more accurate bracelet adjustment, which is good. Basically, this is one of the better bracelets and clasps that I've seen, especially in this price segment. Now, my only complaint here is with the shape of the end links. The end links are solid, which is good, however, I think they could have been a bit shorter, so they could be more flush with the case and curve down a bit more. This is where a half a millimeter on both sides could make a bit of a difference, in my opinion. And here is how this watch would look on my about 7-inch wrist. And here it is on a nylon strap, and also on a NATO style strap. I don't have the grey and black NATO strap handy at the moment, but I hope you get the idea. Okay, the good, the bad, and, well, for $173 US, this is a great watch in my opinion. I think this one has the best bracelet out of numerous Omega homages on AliExpress, and yes, my recommendation for those few extra dollars to get one on the bracelet. As for the rest of the watch, all the premium materials, ceramic bezel, sapphire crystal, stainless steel construction, 200 meters of water resistance, and, if that's not enough, a high-beat PT5000 movement will give a run for their money to any competition in this price category. Out of negatives, well, I can think of 3, and none of them are particularly deal-breakers, well, not for me anyway. And the first one is, of course, the loom. A loom could have been improved. Now, the second one is the end links. End links could have been possibly done shorter and more flush with the case. And the third one is the back case. It could have been done maybe 1 or so millimeter thinner to make the whole case a little bit thinner. What are your thoughts? Please let us know in the comments. And, of course, if you find this review helpful, smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.